Hey, I'm Alfie Williams.
And I'm Rodney McGee.
And this is Rodney and Alfie Talk Metal.
Once again, we are back with another Thrills, Chills, and possibly a few Spills episode of Rodney and Alfie Talk Metal. And this week we have a special guest, Rob Calhoun. Rob is a member, and I believe the founding member of Wormflesh, brutal death metal. And we're definitely going to be getting into some genre-specific questions on that. And he is also the founder and owner of Arachnid Cabinets, specialty guitar and bass cabinets aimed at similar audiences. So, Rob, thanks for coming on, man. It's like to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, man. I always am super appreciative of these opportunities. So, no, once again, thank you, man. You've definitely been a swell character ever since we met at NAMM.
Absolutely. That was how we got tied in. I saw Rob and his gear at NAMM. I'd actually been following Arachnid Cabinets for a little bit, and yeah, had a very cool setup. And it's always cool to catch up with somebody whose work you follow and find out they're not completely a sociopath. Those are good times.
Just a little bit, yeah. I think we all have to be somewhat sadomasochist to work in a field where everyone just wants to talk crap on you and put what you do down at some point, right? It's a little bit of torture.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then there's metal too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought a good opening question, especially with your project Wormflesh and you moving forward. Something we had talked about a couple episodes back was what kind of the future forms of extreme metal might look like, because we very obviously have kind of hit a ceiling. I mean, we've really reached kind of the limits of human endurance in a lot of ways. We're not going to get blast beats that much further. We've hit a point where a lot of it can't even be pulled off without triggers because it's just physically impossible to be able to make a solid enough hit. You're not going to get more guttural than guttural. It's, the vocals, especially being, the piece that sits on top, is there going to be an evolution of the style? Or do you feel like the next maybe few cycles of metal are going to move into things where really heavy chops and those style vocals become not, I don't want to say passe, but they aren't the current trend of where people are trying to push? Or what are your thoughts?
So my thoughts are this. You're always going to have death metal in the vein of the architects of the genre. Your deaths, your Cannibal Corpses, your obituaries, things like that. You're always going to have bands carrying that torch. But what there tends to be is for every 10 years or so, I don't know when it technically starts. You saw it with glam metal. You see it with grunge. You see it with metalcore, deathcore. There's always a genre that comes along, kind of takes multiple components of that, does something different, and people are really enamored with that because it's different, but it's familiar enough to get them into it. And then what happens is that flavor of the decade drops off and people rediscover the guys who are carrying the torch,
Right on.
And I feel like, oh, wow, where'd this band come from? Well, this band's been playing this stuff for 20 years, or this band's been around for 15 years. You were just kind of enamored with the flavor of the decade to realize that was going on underneath you. And they're developing it and they're sweating it out in the clubs and they eventually get their recognition. But it seems you've got to be, it's about your, what they say, it's about your late 30s, early 40s that most people in like death metal sort of get the recognition that they deserve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I kind of think that's what happens. It never goes away. No one's really trying to get any quicker. But the genre just takes a backseat to something that's taking lots of elements from it for the time being.
Right. Great observation. Yeah, we were also talking about that. It kind of touches on the same thing in that I unfortunately am I think I'm pretty steadfast in what I've been seeing and everything, and it is the next rolling in trend is the resurgence of nu metal.
It's back. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just, dear God, man, it's, I'm old enough to remember and come up with a thing where it was like that 10 to 15 year cycle. What meant something new would happen. Now the 10 to 15 year cycle seems to be something from the past that the younger group doesn't remember that well, will just be dredged up and put again. Like it's like building a road by taking the piece behind you and just putting it in front of you. It's just endless recycling.
I kind of feel like Doom kind of has done that as well. They took like the heaviness of what modern metal is supposed to be with the modern distortion, but they're slowing the riffs back down again, which, you know, they're all Sabbath, fuzz, overdrive driven lovers, geeks, nerds, whatever you want to call them, and they're trying to research that kind of droning sound of the 70s, and sometimes that's healthy for the genre too. Like it can't always be fast. So if you can't go fast, what do you do? So you can play slowest, right?
Yeah,
and the most droniest.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think Doom is a sorry, Doomers. The fan, it's kind of like the Tools fan base. Sometimes it gets a little obnoxious, but yeah, they're like, well, that riff lasted 20 bars. I'm like, you know, too much of one thing though gets stale, even in my opinion. That's why I think I write the way I do. I joke that we're like ADD metal.
Nice. Yeah, well, but I think that variety becomes important. You know, I would say it's definitely something that I feel is, you know what, I'm not going to pin this completely on metal. It's not a fair one because it goes into pop too, but
absolutely.
There's definitely this thing of like bands that will get two really good songs and then they will rewrite those two songs until their social security checks run out. You heard those, you're going to hear them over and over and over. And there's they don't challenge themselves enough in the songwriting in that we have a sonic signature and people like that. So we're just going to keep feeding them that. And, you know, so I like, you know, don't give me a reason to go to the next artist to get a break for a minute.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Give me one yourself, you know?
Yeah.
I find this whole thing really, I'm trying to find where it sits with me on a cultural level at the moment. I've been thinking about this and we can talk about it in full another time if you like. But this whole package of nostalgia where people our age, they're looking back at their generation when they were kids and growing up. And it's now this is being repackaged for us again, like a second time, like the new metal stuff. It's not innovating. It's just like, here's the stuff you remember from when you're a kid. And it doesn't seem like it's branching out. It's just kind of like we said earlier, it's recent enough that you remember it, but slightly different. And I just feel like it's not splintering enough into anything new. It's just regurgitation.
No, you're right. You're super right. And I honestly think, sadly, we're all creatures of habit. I'm not going to lie. I built a badass PC. I mean, it could handle some like modern games like a champ. But you know what I use it for? I used it to play the visual remake of Diablo 2. And the new Tony Hawk 1 through 3, you know, digital remakes they did. I literally went back to the games that I grew up on, but with better graphics. And that's all I use this computer. That's why I use my computer for, as well as being the entertainment center. But you're right. There is something about nostalgia. And sadly, not everything from the past is great, though.
No.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, I think, you know, this goes way afield and everything, but this goes way beyond metal. I mean, this has become, you know, we've become culturally stagnant. There's no doubt about it. I mean, how many goddamn remakes, reboots, prequels? There's nothing new anymore. It's just constantly waving the car keys and doing the member berries. Remember this? Remember this? And it's like, You know, I mean, it's stuff that things like, even though I like it, Stranger Things has been banking off of for 4 seasons, or you watch the Ghostbusters reboot and it's like, oh, we're going to do the cameos and we're going to do, you know, or Disney sucking every last vampiric bit of life out of my childhood with their Star Wars garbage. Or, you know, it's just this, I think we've entered firmly the era of creating content, not creating art.
Yeah.
It's just it's just keep the fire hose of shit going. Don't have a gap. We go up. What is it next week? Oh, we got to have some content. And, you know, that's the leading towards the subject we'll get into after this that Rob and I touched on in a conversation we had, but just the same with the social media fire hose. It's like, I got to stay relevant. I got to be doing this. And people have become so much more concerned with the output.
Yeah.
Than being willing to have a space and go, maybe I should take a minute and come up with something interesting.
Yep. You're right. They're so worried about keeping up with the Joneses in terms of content output that no one's really creating. What they're doing is they're doing a trend. Mm-hmm. It's like seeing the same it's like seeing someone fall off a building and every day a new person falls off the building. You know, okay, sure, first couple times, oh, they fell off the building, but now it's like, you know, it's nothing new happening. It's just the same cycle and the same stupid dance done by a group of 4 people versus 1 person, 3 people versus 8 people. Someone gets their whole office to do the stupid dance, put the music over it. It's not different. It's just this. You know, you're right. It's about just putting it out versus actually creating something new. And that's where, you know, people rather trend than create.
Do you think it just reached an equilibrium in the sense that it's really expensive to make a brand new original original film, original blockbuster, and they realize if they just move the slider down, there's an equilibrium. Okay, we can do a movie. People are going to buy it regardless, and we know it's going to cost this much. It's reached an equilibrium, I guess. The same with music.
I think it's the people in charge. I think there's probably plenty of fresh ideas out there, but Frank Zappa said it best. He's like, we did better back in the day when it was the cigar chomping guys in suits who didn't know what it was. Well, we don't know what it is. Put it out. If it sells, it sells. You know, and then we say what happens is they hire a couple hip dudes to come in and bring them their coffee, and next thing you know, and yeah, I think it's just the people don't want to take risks. They know, you know, they probably follow trends in video games. Oh, people buy this, or, you know, they know trends in shows. What's probably like, well, this is safe. And safe is going to make us money. And instead of, well, this is scary and adventurous. We don't know if it's going to make, I don't want to risk that. We knew the first one was successful. You know, we don't want to bank off the, you know, third, you know, an original thing being successful. Might as well just make a copycat with modern characters.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of that. And there's, I think, also a cultural, we've lost an aversion that there used to be to being seen as derivative. Like, you know, I told this before, I can distinctly remember an episode of, you know, when I was still in my teens and touring, and having some guy after one of our shows go, hey man, I really like your set and everything. And he was like, that one song you guys did, he goes, it really had this really cool kind of like Testament sound to it. And I had a fucking panic attack. Like immediate band meeting in the dressing room. I'm like, dude, I don't know what the hell happened during this song, but people think it sounds like Testament. We got it. No, we like it back to the drawing board with that shit. I was not willing to accept some kind of immediate recognition or comparison that we had somehow ripped off Testament.
Back when there was probably more integrity too. Like people,
And I talked to bands, you know, when I was doing a lot of marketing work, or I'll even just talk to younger students and stuff. And you tell them, oh, well, that sounds kind of like this. And they're like, oh, cool. No, oh, cool. We have that band. Do you know why they did that album? So you don't have to. I'd
I'd rather when someone comes up to me and they talk about what we sound like, because this is where I joke that we're like ADD metal, because I'm kind of in the same boat as you, right? I don't like lingering on one or two elements for too long. What I think is more creative is how to bridge multiple elements together. And so we get tons of times, man, there'll be people who say, man, you guys are like tech death, or you guys are slamming, or you guys are just groovy. I like the multiple genre comparisons versus like, oh, you sound like ABC band down the street that I just saw. And we talk about it all the time. You know, we have some really good local talent in the Sacramento area. We have like the Candy Veil. We have Exiles Erosion. We have Flood Practices here, Decrepit Birth. And we have just a really good song, but none of us sound like each other. My drummer and bassist do a side project with two other guys in the room they call Catholic. I mean, we're talking the rhythm section are the same two dudes. Mm-hmm. with the guitarist and vocalist on it, and we sound nothing alike. And to me, that's great. That's how it should be. There shouldn't be 10 clones of the same band in here. Someone should be like, oh man, I really need my melodic death. I really need my melodic death metal fix. I'm gonna go see my Wastewalker on this day. Oh, I really need my really fast, shreddy, like no relent death metal. Here's Catholic. I kind of need all my elements death metal. You know, I need my groove in this, and like I'm gonna go see Wormflesh. I need, you know, and I think that's how it should be. And sometimes I think to me people get caught up with, well, that band's successful, I'm gonna study their formula. I think anybody with a good enough ear and musical sense could do that, and it's not hard. But that's like you said, like. You don't want to be known as the guy who's ripping off Testament. I hate to say that's one thing about metal community is we kind of rip on people who sound like they're an obvious rip of a band who is super noticeable and distinguishable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It just, that aversion.
We used to be at least.
Yeah. Well, like I said, that aversion to it, I think, has been lost to a big degree too. So you're going to get more bands who think, you know, starting out, step one is, who do we want to sound like? You know, who are we going to start stealing from? Rather than, you know, what is our mission? You know? Oh.
Yeah, exactly. To me, it should be what riffs, when you listen to music, what are the riffs that make your ears perk up? And not how to rip off the band, but how can you write stuff that you like that makes your ears perk up in the same way without, like I said, ripping off that dude 100%. Like, you know, well, I like these riffs, but maybe you don't necessarily like the formula and how the blueprints of how they make the songs with those riffs. Now it's your chance to be like, well, you know, I said there's nothing wrong with liking songs for just one little part. So that means the whole song doesn't capture your attention. That's cool, but it's okay. There's that one little part, and figure out, okay, that one little part is surrounded by this other 30 minutes that suck. How do I take that one little part and write 2 minutes, 30 seconds that I don't think sucks, but to my sensitivity and my abilities, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's, you know, building on the past rather than just finding out how to vaguely disguise it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I used to joke about sometimes the metalcore and deathcore stuff. I used to joke, if a 13-year-old can already predict the structure of your song, you're not being creative.
Exactly.
You know, you could tell when the breakdown was coming because they would do like a series of 10 different, like a rolling snare with breakdown.
Is that a problem though? I mean, of course, if there's a deliberate choice where you're trying to make it change every couple of bars, that's fine if that's your artistic direction. But is it wrong to, I don't want to say be cliche, but if you're adopting a relatively known formula, is that a problem? Or is that, you know, part of the whole mission statement, like Rodney said, that you're trying to be different and what's the word I'm thinking of? There's a randomness to the structure. Is that like a deliberate thing?
Keep people guessing.
Yeah.
go back, don't be the, it's one thing if maybe, a handful of bands follow the structure, but when the entire genre follows that, like, I use Dying Fetus as a great example. I can't tell where they're going in a song. I can't tell if they're going to slow down, if they're going to speed up, if they're going to do some driving groove, shred, if they're going to go back to their home base riff. I can't tell what they're going to do next in the song. It's like, it's so spastic, and they obviously have a formula that's very much them. You could tell, like, other than vocals, I think I could tell a Dying Fetus song from a mile off, but I could tell the songs apart too at the same time. It's not so formulaic that like when I listen to them, like, is that one shot, one kill? Or is that, from womb to waist? Or is that subjected to a beating? Like, I know those songs when I hear those riffs, and they, like, it's not like 4 bars in, we're going to now go into a driving groove. Next 8-ish, 12-ish bars, we're going to go into shred. 4 more bars, we could go back to our groove, and 6 more bars in, we're going to go to a technical part. There's no formula. So in a sense, it's not wrong. It's not bad to be recognizable, but when the whole genre is kind of like, I can't distinguish one song from another band. Like, my wife likes emo stuff, and I other than the vocalists, I couldn't tell. I probably couldn't tell bands like Yellow Card apart from the Used, other than the vocalists, or or the God. There's only like 2 of them that I know. I couldn't tell those bands apart aside from the vocalists, and maybe the production, if you pay that close attention, that the tones they like using, etc. But then again, I guess people can say that for death metal too, right? I mean, we're all biased in a way.
Maybe.
Sure. Yeah, it's, are you doing something that's a signature of a style, or are you doing a cliche? I think that's what it comes down to. If your past 5 songs all did the same thing, if the past 5 bands all did the same thing, it's like, dude, it's time to cut it loose. I'm always screaming about the yell clean vocals that I can't believe still have held over from grunge. And, the metalcore guys are still doing it. Oh God, just, sing the chorus, scream the verse, or, all they did was flip the grunge formula. And it's like, it's been 20 years, guys. When the hell does this go away?
Yeah. Like I said, my wife would differ, but there's a lot of things she's probably listening to this and be like, oh my God. But yeah, it's, the whole, God, there was a cliche thing where, for the longest time, the band had, like, the metalcore bands, like, there had to be like 2 vocalists.
Yeah.
Because, or the guitarist was the clean vocalist while the main front man shouted. But yeah, it was very much a upper chest roar shout, and then the guitarist comes in with the clean chorus, and it was just predictable that it was always going to happen. Maybe it would have been a lot better if that was scarcer in the genre.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if every song didn't overwork that predictable dynamic, maybe it could have been a little bit more tasteful.
Sure. Or, even if I don't like it, it's like, oh, that was a little different, but yeah, it's just when anybody does something and then all of a sudden everybody does something.
Yeah.
And it's just that I did an interview with Charlie Benanti from Anthrax one time, and he just coined it perfectly. He was like, yeah, we live in the era of Photoshop metal.
Wow.
He was like, you take the same image and you just add a different filter and fuck it.
Wow. That's crazy. That's a good visual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a good talk. A cool guy.
Yeah, I can imagine. I bet that the miles under that guy's fingers and feet from playing. Yeah,
underrated dude. But yeah, it's funny. It's always cool to get someone from who still has that like back east New York attitude about stuff too, because he just gave no fucks about his real opinions on things and stuff. Just love it.
It's one of those things that some people, it's this day and age, it's kind of like as a business owner, there's only so many things I can. I mean, there's so many things I say, with my bandmates behind closed doors that, or my wife, that's like, you couldn't really espouse that on social media these days. It's to me, people don't have thick enough skin to be criticized, and I'm all about being, you should be able to take criticism. And I think that, instead of crying about it, I feel like people, they're not learning how to debate it instead. Like, oh, you're criticizing me. Let's debate it instead of argue it. Like,
definitely,
or sometimes criticism's needing. I kid you not. My buddy Joel Barrera, he's the guitarist for Catholic. He initially was going to join Wormflesh long ago. And it was a little, what do you call that? Passive aggressive? Yeah. It was a little passive aggressive, but he sent me a link on YouTube. It was like, in the series was called the whole series was called Why Something Sucks, and he sent me things like, why your sweep picking sucks. And as passive aggressive as it was, I knew he was trying to tell me your sweep picking could be better, dude. It really could be. But, I didn't like, what the fuck are you trying to tell me, dude? What is all you saying? I'm not good enough. I just, maybe it could be better. Maybe you've got a point. I wish you could have said that to us, like, hey man, like, I'm just hearing some things in your playing. Don't get offended, but there's this great series. It's called Why or Whatever Sucks. He goes over sweep picking. Just check it out.
Yeah.
We got to get better, right? And you can't get better if people are just stroking your ego like, oh God, yeah, you're so great. Everything you do is flawless. Like,
no. I think that's just part of it's a bigger problem in society where we're texting each other too much, just that's how we communicate, text and email, messenger. And I think there are just certain types of people that aren't ready to engage in, I guess it's not, what's the right word? I guess not conflict, but disagreement, or, do you know what I mean? Just to say you could do better. And that's not a negative thing. It's just like, everyone can do better in anything, and it's not offensive to say that. It's like, are you doing your best?
Yep.
It's not offensive. You can say that to someone.
No, you know what? And I feel like it's only a conflict or disagreement if your perspective of any time anybody brings something up to you, is your mind says people are always being, confrontational. Average Joe, I would like to think like. Anybody with a normal mindset, like, oh man, hey, I think you could have done that better, can take that as, oh God, maybe I just could do a little better. Maybe I was, my mind was drifting, so I didn't play that part as cleanly. But that's, the only way I think that would be confrontational or like argumentative is if you think when people are approaching you with things regarding, constructive criticism as conflict, confrontational. So I hate to repeat myself. Sorry about that. But that's a mindset, I think.
Well, it's also, I think people have lost the differentiation between constructive criticism and then people who are just dicks. It's like they think that all criticism equals that one guy on Blabbermouth that's always like, well, actually, and it's just,
we all know that person.
So, it's, and that's the thing too, is having enough of a stable personality and stuff to be able to stop things at the door and frisk them and go like, wait a minute, I don't have to burst into tears or have some kind of emotional reaction to this. I can take a minute and analyze it and go, is this helpful to me? Is this person really trying to reach out and I shouldn't be defensive? Or does this guy just need to be shitting his teeth for the next 2 weeks? So, it's learning that thing, but that definitely leads into, and something Rob and I talked about on a call the other day is, especially, and I think this has a specific point to metal and rock and forms like that, is social media killing it? And I think to a big degree it is.
So I think, to be honest, the time we put into our social medias is valuable time we should be creating. Like, my whole goal is to make Arachnid my main business. So as I do build, there's processes where my hands don't always have to necessarily be active, so I could post stuff then. Sometimes going to the photographer and getting promo shots is still part of the job. It's a fun part, to take your product in and get professional shots, but it's, I have to be a web developer because I don't have thousands of dollars to put into, someone to build me a website. I have a couple friends who are artists who just so happen to be good with SEO and all the Google stuff to make sure you pop up high on the radar. But that's still time I have to take because, you need a presentable website, you need presentable media. Sometimes we worry about how the video of our playing looks versus how's our playing sound.
Totally.
Yeah. I think it's also the thing, and again, we touched on it before, is with pop music, overexposure has always been the name of the game. It was like,
like they're models or something on cement.
Well, they are, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there was never going to be too much Elvis. There was never going to be too much Beatles. It was, we want another interview. We want another picture. We want this. But when you had rock bands, and you can look at anything from Led Zeppelin up to Marilyn Manson, anything like that, being inaccessible to a certain degree was part of the thing because it let the listener develop the myth of who you are inside their head. It let them kind of put their own personality wishes into it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't supposed to be like, I don't want to see Dave Mustaine's colonoscopy on fucking Twitter. I don't need this amount of information on you. I want to wonder if you are that crazy.
Yeah. We were was this when you talk about black metal bands about how like
absolutely
yeah. So Alfie, are you familiar with the band Mayhem?
Yeah, no, Mayhem.
Okay, so Mayhem, and they put a movie out about them, and one of the guitarists in Mayhem, no shitting on him, but he's on Instagram quite a bit. It's showing him backstage in the green room, taking a selfie, and it's showing his personal life, and I'm all like, man, the mystique of Mayhem is really going out the door. Behemoth is another band that I got a Behemoth tattoo on my arm.
Oh, cool.
Nurgle, I love Nurgle and I love Behemoth to death, but Nurgle is almost like a celebrity versus this supposed to be this super satanic musician. He probably is, but he's too out there. So the mystique of Behemoth being this crazy, like godlike mystique, mystical thing is gone. The mysticism's all gone from all these bands. Are they really like Ronnie was saying back in the day? You guys were like, does Venom really worship Satan? Like, is Slayer really Satan worshippers? Are all these bands from Norway really burning churches left and right? And now today you're kind of like, there's whoever with their cat. They love their cats,
Yeah. And the funny thing is, does it even have to go to dark, things or something? You can see the effectiveness in just, again, having a mystique. Look at Van Halen era David Lee Roth. I always go back and watch old interviews and stuff like that, just to kind of look at through the history of things and how they evolved. But you go back and look at that, and there was nobody better in an interview with this guy. He had these one-liners, this incredible comeback ability, and he had this image, but it was sculpted. That guy knew that his interview was a show just like what he did on stage.
Right.
But then there wasn't an interview every 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So there was a mystery about them of like, are these parties I keep hearing about as insane as The Reputation?
Yeah.
Is it really like 50 naked women in a room and TVs going out the window and multiple arrests and stuff? And you never got confirmation either way. And during the interviews, he would always just kind of give you this wink of like, well, I can't really tell you what goes on, And
Yeah.
you were like, this guy is the greatest partier that has ever happened on earth. And, so mystery doesn't just have to be about, a darker thing or something. It creates a myth of a larger than life thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like he's the archetype for it. It just
totally
ruined shit. I mean, coming up, this guy was the Prince of Darkness. He's in these weird castle things. He bit the head off a bat. He's got a dead guitar player. He's got, what the hell is going on here?
You find out he's just a bumbling idiot outside of music. I mean, I love Ozzy to death, but he seems like he doesn't know what's happening. And he, and really he's all bumbly, like, what are we doing today? What? I didn't. Yeah.
Like falling off golf carts and throwing stuff over his neighbor's hedge and stuff. And I'm like, you're like my asshole neighbor.
Yeah. Like, and you gotta wonder how much of that was he told. And even so, let's say he was asked to do that for, hey, Ozzy, we know you may not do this in real life, but, just for a little cinema flair, just do something extra, and then he does something, and you think that's normal when probably that was scripted, but you don't know that. Yeah. So no, you're right. This really goes not musician oriented, but I thought for the longest time, like, it's just going to go to actors just because it's been in the news. But like, I really knew nothing about Johnny Depp outside of his movies.
No,
I knew, like, there was a big mystique about the dude. You knew he partied. You knew he played music. You knew him from his movies, but you didn't really know what kind of life the dude lived. And the dude just had all of his dirty laundry aired out in front of hundreds and hundreds of millions, not billions of people, whoever has internet access. And, like you said, I feel like there's a correlation. Ozzy did the same thing and people are doing the same thing. I tell people all the time, like, there's a lot of people who don't know I'm a stationary engineer for work. Because they don't know that I have a real job outside of Arachnid. They think that's what I do because I've built that illusion on my social media. It's all my photos are of. It's me, Arachnid, or Wormflesh. And I don't like sharing my kids because there's plenty of fucking weirdos out there. There's plenty of weirdos I know locally that, I don't need to put this stuff online. But there's lots of people like, oh, you work a real job? I'm like, when I meet them in person, like, yeah, I'm like, we thought you just did Arachnid. I'm like, cool, illusion kept up, Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like, you're good to point out, Hollywood too, as kind of the side thing of, remember when actors used to have like this, again, this aura of maybe they weren't all idiots or that they knew when to shut up, or you had your Marilyn Monroes and things like that. And it's like, even their personal appearances were very crafted. There's this thing of like, don't talk about this. Don't talk about politics. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Stay on topic, do this thing, keep up the charm, do this. And we had this elevated image of them. And most people I talk to anymore look at most actors and go, these people are morons. Like, the lack of respect is just completely through the thing. They're like, why are these people not garbage men? It just, and that's part of that thing is, I feel like metal has always leaned into that.
Yeah.
It's the mystery of, is this intensity of aggression something that gets carried into real life?
Right.
And you don't know. And that's what made it appealing. I mean, when I first got Hell Awaits from Slayer, dude, I looked at the pictures on the back of that album and all the stuff that went with it. And I was like, these guys are insane. Like, there's imagery, and that's what I wanted. I didn't want Tom Araya, with his grandkids. Man.
It's like the lore of a band, isn't it? The story. We're all looking for that story. What is this, the lore and the background? And like you said, like, it's just part of a package. And it's like in The Wizard of Oz, where you pull the curtain back and it totally breaks that image. And I think that's part of the art, to have that illusion, to keep it that way. And to break it is really taking away from your art, or taking away from your personality, persona, your image, whatever, it really is a detriment to your craft if you do that deliberately. And you know, like, hey, I'm here with my wife, we're in the bedroom, the kids are coming up from school. Like, no one cares. Like, why do we need to know this? It's not part of the story. This is not what I signed up for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And sadly, I think it's even bigger detriment for bands who do put on a highly choreographed or planned stage performance. You know, like you said, Ozzy, all these guys who had these, you know, these legendary personas, or and I use black metal as the prime example only because it's really is so shocking, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the like live video for Gorgoroth building a giant.
Mm-hmm.
You're naked bodies on crosses with sacks on their head while fires come up. They're in blood, a naked body on the floor talking about Satan and possession and fucking murder. And then you can go on Gall's Instagram and see him kissing his boyfriend who makes clothes. And nothing wrong with him having a boyfriend, but it's all like the guy who went from rubbing the stem on his wine glass and going, Satan, to like brunch with his boyfriend. I mean, like, bro, like, it's such a shocker. I kind of always knew that the 80s guys were probably like, it was, you know, because you hear a story how like a lot of that image is all crafted by the record labels. So I think we all knew a hint of what was happening is record label crafting. You know, putting on the image. Michelangelo Badio talks about it all the time. They did not want to tease their hair that way and do some of the shit they did, but you know, they were imaged like pop music. You know, they're pieced together by a label. And so I think we all knew to an extent that these guys couldn't all be that crazy, but we didn't know. You still didn't know, like you said. And it's like social media, it's like, okay, this guy is just normal Joe Blow. I can, you know, he, like you said, he's like your asshole neighbor, you know?
Oh, and again, I think it comes down to that the allure of it and the likes and the adoration and the instant ego swell and stuff, that nobody has restraint anymore enough to go, no, I need to not be here. And there's also that terror of what you're told by every PR person. If you don't have the content going, they're going to forget about you. There's too much competition. But and to me, the argument's always been, if I'm not putting out content that keeps you interested in me longer than a week, then my content is shit. It's not the amount of it. If I have to put out a new picture every day, then it means that the picture the day before was too goddamn boring.
Or just the people aren't really into you that much, you know?
God forbid.
You know, me and my producer, who's also my media content creator in terms of like my photos and some stuff, we've talked about it. He's all like, share the progress photos of what you do with the clients. He's like, don't post those anymore. Let there be some mystique to how your stuff's made to anybody. Just jump it on your page. He's like, and the content you put out, maybe you don't have to put it all the time, but let it be like, just let it be quality over quantity. So like when I do media dumps, you know, we just like, okay, we took a ton of photos. These are all beautiful, high quality. We'll spread them out a little bit, but beyond that, we're going to make sure the photos that are coming out are quality versus quantity. You know, like you said, if I have to post a picture every day, maybe it's not exactly because the photo is shit, but maybe because those people don't really give a shit about the product that they're looking at to begin with, whether it be music, food, anything, you know, anything.
Yeah, that just kills me, that endless type of thing. Alpha, you were about to say something?
Yeah, I'm really conflicted by that. And generally speaking, I do agree in the term of what you're saying, Rob, about having just the one good image. I do agree with that.
Not just one, but
quality.
Yeah.
Rather than series. And then I'm going back to this. There's like an experiment. I don't know if you've heard about it, where I think it goes, there's a photography class. Half of the class are given the task of shooting one picture for the month. So your project is take one photo, that's it. And then the other half of the class is given the assignment to take as many photos as you can throughout that month. And then the end of the results are that the people who took the most photos, so the quantity, were better photographers as a result of the quality. So I'm really having a problem in my head of like, if you do it more, you get better. But then if you focus on it, you do deliver a better product. So there is some sort of divide there that I can't wrap my head around. But
well, I'm not the photographer, of course. But
no, I didn't mean you know, generally.
But you're absolutely right, though. But okay, Rodney, me and you, we're both sitting down, we're writing a song. Okay, Are we going to share every riff with people, or even the ones that are shitty, like, oh, this one isn't that great, or are we going to cut? You're going to wait till we have a song together, right? We're not going to share every little crappy riff that's like, hey guys, this is a song we wrote, but let's give you all the blooper riffs that we wrote too. So yeah, you have to practice your craft, but you still don't have to share all the shitty outtakes with everyone.
No, and that's where I'm getting confused. Of course, I mean,
I think I see your differentiation there, Alfie. If I can break in there, it's you're mistaking time spent on your ability to do something rather than the rapidity of how often you put it out.
Right. I'm trying to get that
photos
definition.
The photos put up on social media aren't the practice. They're supposed to be finished photos of the quality you would expect from somebody who's been doing it. And, Rob made a great thing there, is be like, I should be putting up, if I'm going to put up a musical example every day, it better be something damn good, finished and polished, not all my failed attempts at the one that you may see 2 weeks down the road that finally got done. There's kind of that difference in between the two.
But you are right. You have to practice the art a ton to get a beautiful outcome, or to where you can produce the beautiful outcome effortlessly. It no longer takes you half an hour to set up your camera. It no longer takes you 20 minutes of figuring out the exposure levels to get the good shots. You no longer have to know how the sun, based on where the sun is in the sky and where your objects are. You're like, okay, the sun's right here. It's going to be better if your right shoulder's turned towards here. Boom. I already have my aperture settings all hooked up. Take a couple test shots. Cool. Lighting's good. Let's go. Like, yeah, you got to practice a ton to get to that point. And then maybe you have a couple rejects photos only because the subject wasn't prepared. Or, like with the cabinet, there was there's a spot we didn't clean. But beyond that, the cabinet's ready. And my photographer now he's so good, out of 200 photos, maybe 10 are trash. He moved a little bit by accident when he took the photo. There was some weird dust floating in the air in front of the product. Like, those are the rejects that were things that were out of his control versus his lack of practice, so to say.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, if you're creating content every day, you're only ever getting the practice, because you may, that person will develop better over time, but you're seeing every step of it. And if you're just desperate to have something up there, you got to have whatever's on hand. And that may not be your best, or work that a week later you look back and go, maybe I shouldn't have put that up there. And again, I always go back to the old adage of familiarity breeds contempt. And it's like, if you're around too much, people lose respect for you. If you make yourself available, if you're trying to, hook up with a girl or something, and you're at her house all the time, and you're always on the phone, and you always pick up, she'll lose interest in a minute, because you just, it's too easy. There's no, hey, what's going on with him? Maybe I should give him a call for once. You don't give her that breathing room. And it's the same thing with a fan. It's like, oh, I wonder what's going on with this band. We're so desperate that once they've wandered off, the over the hillside a little bit, they're never going to come back. It's like, well, then your stuff wasn't memorable.
Like you said, Rodney, the term we typically use as musicians is oversaturating our market, right? don't play your hometown once every 3 months. You know, go to that city that's an hour away that people are too lazy to drive from to come to your city the one time you do play. But yeah, it's you don't want to oversaturate your market, and which means, same thing like content. You want to be good at what you do, but when you finally put the piece of content out there, you want people to be like, oh God, that seems to one up the thing I remembered last time.
Mm-hmm.
Just like playing, if you oversaturate your market, you play one show and 3 months later you come back and they're like, wow, why is this band killed so much more? We had 3 months of playing other markets getting better, and you come back to your hometown and you just got better. You're like, there's an art to playing live too. And so there's that aspect of it. People we've had people say, every time we see you, you get better. I'm like, well, shit, last time we played here was 5 months ago. So I like to think we got better. I mean, as long as we're not sitting on our asses and, someone, a lot of times with arachnids, someone says, my neighbor who peeks in maybe every 4 months on what I'm doing comes in and says, wow, you're just getting better and better. Well, yeah, because he didn't see every little step that I was doing to get better. All the fuck ups that I did to get, all the material I potentially wasted. It's learning how to do logo play. You should see how much of this Romark material I've wasted, because I'm still learning how to get the bit right, and I'm not 100% on it. Like, you'd be like, if you saw the script, you're like, man, this guy sucks at this. Do I want him to? But then you come to NAMM and you see some like a sigil and like, oh wow, that's clean as fuck. So like, well, shit, man, you don't know how much practice and material I wasted to get that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
And again, all of it comes down to, nobody wants to see the practice runs.
Never.
And the more you do that, we all know everybody went through it, but we love to have that thing in our head of this person is somehow made of magic. That, when I go and see somebody, there's a part of me that wants to believe they were just born with this thing.
I'm kind of seeing the opposite. I mean, for me, what I see in other people is they like tearing down someone who's at the top of their game, going, wow, this person has had a mental breakdown. They're in rehab. They're happy to watch you fall.
Oh, those are just fucked up people, though.
No, I know. But we would probably we just want to have that mystique and see people at the top of their game. The opposite is people who are reading like tabloids and gossip magazines, and they just want to see those people fall down because they can feel better about themselves. And maybe it's part of that.
Yeah.
Trying to find some sort of relation, in their lives.
There are people like that.
There's that thing too, but also if you're not out there sharing all these details and all this crap, they don't get that. They shouldn't know when my life is falling apart. Seriously. I mean, like I can say, a number of really brutal life episodes I've had over about the past 8 years. Some stuff that 1/10 of which would send most people on social media screaming with their hair on fire to write about, oh God, and you'd never know. I would never put that stuff up there.
It's no one's business. I don't see why we need to.
Well, because I don't want applause for that. I want applause from when I got up and I tell you the story later after I live now in a Victorian mansion.
Right.
And am able to make a living off of playing my instrument.
Yeah.
No. And so, yeah, Alfie, Ronnie makes a point. There are actually, let me go back to what you said. Alfie, I think you do make a point. There are those people who are like weirdly waiting for your downfall. And these are people that have no real like investment into you other than I think they're just unfulfilled themselves, and because they couldn't pursue it or they couldn't do it, they couldn't make XYZ happen. They're waiting for the people who did make XYZ happen fall, and they just like seeing it. I feel like it's like I'm trying to think. I don't really personally know anybody like that, but I really, my brother will never listen to this. My brother is weirdly like that. he just kind of waits. He's like hoping bad things just will happen to equalize the playing. He's older, but he just kind of hopes that like, he's all like, when I fail, he like really likes, well, so it didn't work that time, huh? And then he'll go on and on about it because it took him forever to get his life in order. You know, it took him longer in the state of California. You can't have a job that doesn't pay you minimum $15, $16, $17 an hour. It took him forever to get a job like that. And if my shortcomings, he always is like, see, you're not so perfect after all, are you? I'm like, where's this coming from, dude? It's like, just because, I mean, I have confidence, but I never said I was perfect. And what Ronnie was saying as well, let me go back as well. If you put all your trials and errors out there, you give people fuel for the fire.
Yeah.
Me and my wife love each other. We've had some arguments, but I'm not that guy who goes on my Facebook and says, God, my wife is harping on me about this. I had this kind of like, man, do you ever have one of those days where you just don't feel appreciated by the people who love you? We all know those people who post that shit, right? Yeah, you would never know that me and my wife have a single issue.
No,
not because we post this fake Photoshop life story, just because we don't talk about our fucking personal shit online.
And how funny is it? Sorry to break in, but there's, I'm sure if anybody was really nerding out on gear and could figure this out, but there's somebody else that builds cabinets, ironically.
I might know. Let's see.
And had reached out to me. And one of the reasons why I just literally pulled back and just not even just a review or a demo or something. And I think, you know, their stuff isn't terrible, but their owner does that shit all day. And I just went, I just don't want to deal with someone like that. I like it. It's like watching a grown ass man that's 14. And it just every day it's bad. People all up in my business. And blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, then stop posting it, you moron. And I got an idea. Get full-time work. Find something else to do, for Christ's sake. I mean, it really is just, it very much typifies this, you know, a part of the SoCal metal scene that I just was over too, is just this kind of like people who were the Sunset Strip crew and have never gotten over it. But they still carry that thing of like, they're still that 17-year-old hanging out with the drama, with the skank bitches and everything. It's embarrassing. And I'm like, dude, you are going to drive your company's rep into the goddamn ground.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, you know, give off the illusion that we're all succeeding at different paces and different levels. What's wrong with giving off a realistic, the realistic side of you winning? Not like this fake manufactured shit where you don't really have something to offer or anything like that, but post nothing but all your winning moments. If you want to look like a winner on the internet, post nothing but your winning moments and keep your personal shit. Maybe I post like maybe one thing every now and then that I think is funny, but it's really rare. But I was talking to someone and said, no one online should know that you're having a bad day. They should not know that you're scrapped with your family. They shouldn't know that you're broke. They shouldn't know that you're, to me, personal family and close friends should only know like your real struggles, because then it actually seems more real and intimate when you're struggling versus like, fishing for compliments or affirmation. To me, when people post their trials, I'm like, oh, this is happening. It's like, what do you want me to do? Like,
yeah, what are you expecting?
You're halfway across the states. And it's like, are you trying to beg me for money? Or are you trying to ask me to do something? You want me to fly out? Like, it's obviously not realistic. Why even post stuff why post that? There's no point.
And the irony is it does feed back into that thing because, the vicious pricks who want to feed off of that are then going to comment on that. And now you're going to feel worse because it's like, oh, now I'm in this horrible spot and these people are attacking me. It makes no sense. And, not straying too far into just personal stuff, but it's like, what do you expect? And if you do this, and this thing is a representation of you as an artist or anything else, I thought a lot about that with my own personal thing, because for some reason I set up a separate Rodney McGee, Facebook page. Nobody went to it as like musician. Nobody. They all came from my YouTube channel, went directly to my personal profile.
Yeah.
So I realized, okay, I've got a bunch of shit up already. That's more of my personal stuff, pictures of my cat and, dumb shit. And I went, one, I'm going to start screening some things out, but I also feel like I've crafted this kind of weirdo image that you don't necessarily know what's going to come out of it. It's like, hey, he's got this weird cat and he's got this kind of strange sense of humor, and he, throws up memes and does dark stuff once in a while. And then all of a sudden he also lives like in the fucking haunted mansion. And he's got this kind of gothic background and stuff, but he doesn't seem to be sad at all like the goth people or anything. So it's more this thing of like, there's semi-normal things, but in this weird combination of just, you can't figure it out. You don't quite know what's going on inside here, so, and I leave it at that.
You want to know what, it's so, the weirdest compliment I ever got about, because like I said, I do my best, I'll post stuff involving me and my wife because we're both adults. I don't really like posting things about my children. Only because there's weird story with a bassist that me and Curtis both know that we played shows with. Come to find out he's a pedophile child, or what they call it, I don't know, was interested in young teens thing. Mm-hmm. And like, wow, this is a dude I've shared hotels with. Like, we're playing a festival. We're all in the same hotel, sharing drinks with this person, and so you never know who's weird. So I've crafted this thing where most people, like I said, they think I only do Worm Flesh and Arachnid. And one of the weirdest compliments I ever got was, man, you're really nice in real life. Like, huh? I'm like, have we ever talked beyond that? Like, no, we've never talked, but you sort of seemed like an asshole. I'm like, what? Like, why? Like, I don't know. Just, you come across like, whatever. So it's just weird. Like you said, you never know what kind of persona someone is going to cut after you. But if you don't give them too much of your personal details, let the wild assumptions run, I guess, And they usually,
like one of the best stories I heard is, or one of my favorites was, after Ozzy bit the head off of the bat.
Yeah.
The famous thing. When right after he had, come back, that, they ran him to the hospital and everything else, he got a call from Frank Zappa. And Zappa said, "Did you really bite the head off of a bat?" And he said, "I don't think so." And he goes, "Well, for God's sake, don't tell anybody." He said, "Don't deny it. Don't say you think it was rubber, nothing like that." He was like, "Just let it go." And, he was called him specifically to tell him, "Don't play this story down. Let it run. This is too good."
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would have, if someone, dude, if you did something that looked like it happened and the whole world saw it, documented it, and you were rushed somewhere because you're like, dude, why not play? Why not take that to your grave?
Absolutely.
The world's convinced you did. It's like being a magician. We want to see something magical. And that's magical in a sense. And none of us really want to know how the trick is done, And sometimes it's just
great comparison.
Yeah, this is one of those instances where we don't need to know how the trick was done. Don't tell us. Don't indulge us. Don't even tell me there's another option. Like that's what it was. Like let it be immortalized.
I really find this behavior, I don't want to say it's weird because I completely understand, I guess, on a biochemical level, the serotonin, the endorphins, the dopamine, all of these things. I get it. I totally understand that. I don't run in circles of people who are, I don't want to say addicted. Addicted is too strong a word, but who lean on that as their main source of entertainment, if that makes sense.
You mean the social media type stuff?
Yeah, so me and my fiance, like, we don't post anything. Like, I don't even use my Facebook. I only use Twitter to speaking with my audience, that kind of thing. And where am I going with this? And even like my friends, they're saying, you need to come on Instagram. Like, you're missing out. You need to post pictures. Like, I don't need another service to share my life on. Like, I'm not interested. And I just find it weird how someone like me and my fiance, and maybe us, that we can put a wall down the middle of that and say, no, thank you, I'm good, and opt out. Where everybody else is like, I need to be plugged in. I need to know what's going on. I don't need to know what's going on. I don't care. And it's just so weird that people are just so plugged in and they need this juice. It's like Slurm from Futurama, isn't it? It's just like, more Slurm. We need more Slurm. Bizarre.
You know, I don't have a personal Instagram at all. I tried doing the Twitter thing, but Twitter's too obnoxious. I have a LinkedIn, but I'm really never on there. Like, so Instagram is 100% Arachnid, and I have one for the band Wormflesh as well.
But that makes sense.
Yeah, my personal one, the only reason I even have the friends I do is because, just like Ronnie's situation, I tried doing a Rob Calhoun Wormflesh Facebook, but no matter what you did or what I did, people find, oh, you're affiliated with this thing, I'm just going to add you. And so it became a thing where it felt harder for anybody that's following me because of Arachnid or Wormflesh to try to herd them over to the Rob Wormflesh page, and then keep that somewhat private. So the only thing I could do was be like, sure, I have a Facebook. I might indulge with a few more things that are more personal, but there's a hard line and boundary of I'm not sharing things about my kids. My wife could post about our kids, and it's private on her page because it's only friends who can see that, and she's only friends with people she has met face to face, worked with, etc. And but I use it for a source of entertainment. To be honest, my band chat is more entertaining than anything. Like, oh my God. Our joke is, if the band chat doesn't make your wife question your sexuality, you're not even in a band together. We post some really outrageous stuff with each other. And sure, I get sucked into the stupid viral video rabbit hole stuff, but I watch a lot of videos on building stuff too. Like, I'm about to build so I'm getting rid of my table saw to make room for my new CNC machine. I still need a saw. And this guy who runs a channel called JYK, I think he's Japanese. He builds all this stuff. So I'm watching videos on how to build panel sleds. I watch videos on guitarists just shredding. So as much as I'm using my phone and social media to entertain myself, I'm actually watching a lot of things to give me ideas for my own writing, things to make me decide if I want to build other things. Oh, that's really interesting. What would it cost to invest to tinker with making my first prototype of that? Is it even is it worth trying to learn how to build it versus figuring out how to buy it prepackaged somewhere? I mean, I do a lot of that. So I still let it entertain me, but it's not entertaining to where it's like, I have to be posting TikToks of myself or my children and getting those likes back at me. Like, that's not what's entertaining.
What I think is maybe interesting to interject is this kind of comes back to something I've talked with Alfie about before and things, is that I've always said that, playing aggressive music and stuff, you have to have a thick skin. And I think this is a place where that thick skin shows itself again, in that, if you're thin-skinned, you're not just one of these people who can't take these hits of critique. You're one of these people who constantly needs the approval. And you can see, like, Alfie doesn't have it. You don't have it. I don't have it. And I think it comes from that personality that does have an interest in and does metal and everything, where it isn't pulled back and forth by those things, positive or negative. I don't cry over criticism, and I also don't go on and keep checking my phone. How many likes did this get? How many, am I viewing the right things? Are people viewing me? There's that sense of being, if you're doing outsider music, you're able to survive as an outsider. You can go, that stuff can sit over there.
Yeah.
And in a weird way, I think I'm coming to this horrible conclusion. It's like, if you're in a metal band and I see you post a lot, you're not metal. You just don't have that thing, man.
I think the only post I've made for the week so far on Facebook, it could be my second post, but see, I posted that we got tickets for sale because we're playing with Decrepit Birth.
Nice.
I think I posted the event.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the only thing I've posted on. Oh, and I'm selling a guitar. So I'm talking like some people about selling a guitar. I'm trying to finance a spindle and VFD for the new CNC machine. So I'm like, when I'm hearing my dings, I'm trying to is that someone who wants to buy this guitar? So I'm kind of in the middle, but I think the most I was on my phone today was to talk with my wood supplier about birch. And did I even post anything on Instagram? Oh, I was interviewed on the Moshed Up podcast and during NAMM. So I just posted something on Instagram about that today because I was asked to. I don't know, man. I think I've made less than 5 posts so far, and we're already halfway through the week. I try to make it to where if I post something, I want it to be important, because if Ronnie, you got, can we talk about the one thing you were talking about musically, about stuff, or can we talk a little bit about that, or?
Not sure exactly what it is, but
well, okay, we were talking,
man. I'm I'm that guy. I don't give a shit.
Well, we're talking. You got an album coming out, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. I didn't know if that's something you could talk about. Okay, so yeah. So the algorithm already shows if you were to post a bunch of bullshit all day, and then you posted that one important thing regarding your new album coming out, that's most likely going to get buried underneath all your bullshit. And what would you rather people see? Would you rather see a clogged feed of a million different things? Like, here's this meme I saw today. Here's this, other musician who I wish I could play like, versus you should probably spend time on your instrument learning to play like them if you want to. Or would you rather your feed be pretty clear, and when people come to your page, one of the only thing that's kind of in their face is new album up?
Mm-hmm. Well, exactly. And it also, feeds into that thing of, oh, there's something coming out. I haven't been hearing about this for ages. I'm not sick of hearing about it. I haven't heard 55 clips from it. I haven't heard him go on and on about how it's going to be so cool and blah, blah, blah. Or
big things coming soon.
Oh, God. Vague posting. I can't stand it. Or, somebody trying to tell me how I should change this one riff before I even finish the song, and then having a personal crisis over that. Or that drives me nuts. It's
the one person who wants to give you their opinion of that riff is, but man, if you had this melody line under here, or if you, people want to produce your album, backseat produce it.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Good music is not made by committee. It does not happen that way. And, so that's the thing too, is you have to get thick skin. I find that shit hilarious. I enjoy confrontation to a certain degree, just because I like being a smart ass. And I know other people oh, they didn't like that riff. I've had a couple of people, I've put up stuff and I've just gone to town with them over it. That just, one guy, just kept going at it. And it seemed like he just kept coming in on my YouTube page and on my Facebook, and would just be pissy about anything that I showed that was cool. He's like, oh, well, I don't have not every band has a whole studio like you do to live in and work in and do all this shit. And I was like, dude, how does it feel to be my Dorian Gray painting? Really? anything good that happens to me, you just get uglier and uglier.
Right, dude. It'd be like, so I watched quite a few of your videos. You're playing, in my opinion, is magnificent, dude.
I appreciate that.
You're technical to the proper degree, but you know what? There's still, it's just funny when you're saying there's people out there who probably watch and be like, oh, where's the soul in that? Oh, all that technical tap stuff you do, there's no soul. Or like, I don't know how many strings you technically play with, but Jocko only needed 4. Like the people who try to, tell my bassist, you should have just stuck to 5 or 6. Like Curtis plays like 11 string and 10 string basses, dude. Like, so you telling me this dude should have fucking listened to your advice and held back these artistic abilities he may have never discovered had he listened to public, opinion on 4 was enough for Jaco, and here's Curtis able to play on it like it's a piano,
Yep.
Yeah, great talent,
It's almost like there's a word coming to my mind. What is it? It's talk bass.
What?
The talk bass for
the
dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Jesus so Christ. It's so yeah, it's I forgot where I was going with that tangent. My bad. But
no worries.
Yeah,
I think we're probably close to wrapping this one anyway, but it really does, I think, at the end of the day, with all this minutia and everything, when you gather it up, it's you start at 100% with your brand, and people hate to talk about it that way, but it is your specific music, your image, your look, your the myth that you've created. You start at 100% because people haven't taken anything. You haven't given anything up. And every time you fuck up like this, it goes down. Right? You can only lose.
Yep.
You can't get more. So I look at that. I wish more bands and artists would look at that and look at their social media and go, it's bullshit that every time I put up something that it's just an advantage, that it's more content, it's exposure, it's this. It's like, no, am I taking a hit for this?
You are. You're doing
some
too much. You got to make people hungry for you. You really do.
Absolutely.
And people are hungry for you when they don't have access to you.
Mm-hmm.
But with the little bit of access that they do get to you in real life blows their mind.
Mm-hmm. And so, that's what you're after. And that's the irony, is I see so many of these guys who didn't come up with an era where social media meant everything. They don't realize that what they're probably willing to work harder than anybody else at in crafting their business, they've been lied to about, and they're destroying their band and their own image and everything by oversaturating. And then they're going to wonder what happened.
It's funny. A couple of the OGs that are on my list, like Sammy and Gary, they respond pretty fast to an Instagram message, but they're a lot quicker to text. And I think that's just kind of one of those things that just shows you that, yes, it's all done on the cell phone. It's all done right here. But they're faster to communicate on a text via an Instagram message sometimes. And I find that I like I prefer to talk things over. Like texts are like fine for like practice tonight. Yeah, cool. 6:30. Dope. Perfect. But if there's like a conversation that requires more engagement, maybe it's business oriented, maybe it involves numbers, travel, logistics, I prefer talking, because to me, first off, some things get misconstrued. Like some people don't have thick enough skin. So when you're talking to them about anything that's serious, they might take that as confrontational. There are things where I write Messenger that, because it's not everyone's available to chat. Like, I think we need to tour more, or we need to do longer runs. People, well, this and I, like, yeah, I understand this. I understand A, B, and C circumstances, but if we don't want this to be such a hardship, we need to do X, Y, Z. And, you know, that looks really demanding over a text. So that's why I prefer the call or talk in person over those things, because tonal inflection is really important. And, you know, I just, you know, not everyone, you know, love my bandmates, but I have you know, me and my bassist, Curtis, sometimes we say things that he takes wrong, and then I end up taking wrong because he sadly will get offended first. Sorry if you're listening to this, Curtis, or you eventually listen to this, but yeah, he'll hear always like, that was it, my bad. We both end up apologizing to each other, but he's like, I just didn't realize that's what you meant by that at first. I was like, yeah, dude, I would think us talking enough, you know how I kind of talk, and the timbre of my voice and my body posture, and you know how I inflict certain things. Like, you know, there gets a point where I think you said something the other day in text. I said, or no, someone else. I said, no, I knew what you meant. I met you plenty enough to know how you talk and your mannerisms to get what you meant in text. I don't know who that was, but that was somebody. And that's how it was. I was just like, no, what you said doesn't come across whatever way they thought it was coming across. So,
yeah. Well, yeah, I think that in conclusion, though, is that, you know, it's really not doing these bands well. And I'm hoping that with, you know, Facebook becoming basically old man book and other things, that some of that'll go away. But then again, it seems to be moving to like TikTok and shit like that, where, you know, that's a whole other thing. But yeah, the short attention span theater stuff. And
no, like you said, it's, if you play any sort of rock and roll, extreme metal, this is a genre where people are supposed to be like rock stars. You know, you're supposed to be living a lifestyle people are afraid to live because it seems rebellious, and they're like, you know, and then, you know, you come to find out, oh, Jimmy, who's this amazing rock star vocalist who blows everyone out of the water, here's his selfie he took working in the McDonald's, you know, at the cook line.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, God, just like facade dismantled.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So, yeah, you're right. I think it hurts, and it's and not everyone needs to see your goddamn vacation photos either. You know?
Main character syndrome.
Yeah. Like no one needs to see your vacation photos, no one needs to see your work selfies. Just be a rock star. You know, be Jimmy Jones, frontman. Don't let anybody else know that that's what you do for a living. Like, create that facade. You know?
But any last thoughts on the subject before we wrap there, Alfie?
What was I going to say?
Well, I look like I'm psychic and shit.
No, I don't have anything to add. I was just going to say some friendly advice. Just stop thinking you're the main character. That's all. It's like, you're not.
After this whole conversation, Alfie's going to get super self-conscious and then start weeding through his Insta. God, maybe I shouldn't have posted that. Maybe I should not post that.
I'd done that a long time ago.
He's going to cull through the socials like, man, now I'm really embarrassed I posted that trip to, you know, Hawaii last month.
Hilarious. Well, it's been pretty good. And I think there's definitely some things that I hope either other artists or bands or things will pay some attention to, especially on the social media thing, and maybe rethink how they're sculpting stuff. But on that note, Rob, why don't you tell people, speaking of media and things like that, your projects and where they can find your awesome stuff? Absolutely.
Well, first off, everyone can look me up at www.arachnidcabs.com. Instagram, Arachnid Cabinets, and then I am on Facebook via Wormflesh and just Robert Calhoun. Nothing too crazy. I don't post a ton, so don't like expect a bunch of. I'm not a meme lord or whatever they call that. I do answer messages, etc. But yeah, I don't have the most exciting profiles. They're very much kind of business oriented.
All right then. Well, then that is going to wrap it for this week. Thanks a lot to Rob for coming in, sitting in on a cool conversation, and offering a lot of good pieces of wisdom, man.
No, thank you. It's always good to talk, man. I appreciate this, Rodney.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's going to wrap it for another Rodney and Alfie Talk Metal. We will see you next time.
Bye.